Once upon a time in a small town, there lived a humble tailor named Rahim. He worked day and night to earn just enough to feed his family. Though his earnings were small, his heart was filled with kindness. Every Friday, Rahim would take a small portion of his income and give it to the poor. Some people laughed at him, saying, "You are poor yourself. Why give charity when you barely have enough?" But Rahim always smiled and said, "Charity never decreases wealth. What we give in the name of God always returns in unexpected ways." One day, Rahim was working late in his small shop when an old man came by. The man looked hungry and weak. Rahim offered him a warm meal and gave him his own blanket, saying, "You need it more than I do." The old man thanked him with tears in his eyes and blessed him before leaving. Rahim didn't know that this small act of kindness would change his life forever. The next week, a sudden fire broke out in the market. Many shops were destroyed, including Rahim's little tailoring shop. He lost everything he had. His sewing machine, his materials, everything turned to ashes. People pitied him, saying, "You should have saved your money instead of giving it away." Rahim's heart broke. But he did not lose faith. He whispered, "Allah is the provider. He will never let me suffer for doing good." Days passed, and Rahim struggled to find work. One afternoon, a rich merchant came to the town looking for someone to stitch special garments for his daughter's wedding. The merchant asked around, and people told him about Rahim, the honest tailor who lost his shop. The merchant called him and gave him the opportunity to sew the entire wedding collection. Rahim worked tirelessly, stitching every piece with perfection. The merchant was so pleased with his work that he not only paid him generously, but also helped him open a new shop, bigger and better than before. Rahim's business began to flourish. He became known not only for his skill, but also for his honesty and kindness. The same people who once mocked his charity now admired his faith and generosity. But Rahim never changed. Every time he earned, he continued to give a portion to those in need. One night, Rahim dreamed of the same old man he had once helped. The man smiled and said, "Your charity reached me when I was hungry, and your faith reached the heavens. Remember, what you give in secret, God multiplies in ways you cannot imagine." When Rahim woke up, he understood that his blessings were not just luck. They were the result of his sincerity and his unshaken belief in giving. Years passed, and Rahim grew old. His children continued his legacy of charity, and the town remembered him not just as a tailor, but as a man whose kindness changed destinies. The story of Rahim reminds us that true charity is not about how much you give, but about the heart with which you give. Even the smallest act of kindness can open doors to miracles. When you give with love, expecting nothing in return, the universe finds its way to bless you in return. So, whenever you get a chance to help someone, do it. Maybe that one act of charity can change not only their destiny but yours as well. Because the true blessing of charity is not in what we give away, but in what it brings back to our soul years later. Rahim's son, Ayaan, took over his father's tailoring shop. He was young, hard-working, and just like his father, kind-hearted and generous. He often remembered his father's words, "Never let your hands close when someone asks for help. An open hand always receives more blessings." One cold winter evening, Ayaan was closing his shop when a poor woman entered with two small children. Their clothes were torn, and their faces showed signs of hunger and exhaustion. The woman pleaded softly, "My children are freezing. Can you please give them something warm to wear? I have no money, but I will repay you one day." Without a second thought, Ayaan opened his shelves, took out two warm coats, and wrapped them around the children. He also gave them some bread and milk from his lunch basket. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She blessed him and said, "May God protect your home from every hardship." Then she left. A few months passed, and Ayaan almost forgot about the encounter. One day, a royal messenger arrived in the town with an announcement. The governor of the province was searching for a tailor to make royal uniforms for his guards and servants. The work was important and would pay handsomely. The messenger asked the townspeople, "Who is the most trustworthy and skilled tailor here?" Everyone pointed toward Ayaan's shop. The messenger visited him, checked his work, and was deeply impressed. He immediately offered Ayaan the royal contract. Over the next few weeks, Ayaan worked day and night, making the uniforms with great care and perfection. When the governor saw the finished garments, he was astonished by the quality and attention to detail. He rewarded Ayaan with a large sum of money and made him the official tailor of the royal household. Ayaan's shop became famous beyond the town. Orders poured in from all directions. Yet, just like his father, Ayaan never forgot to give charity. Every month, he set aside a part of his income to help orphans, widows, and travelers in need. One day, as he was visiting a nearby village to deliver clothes, he saw the same woman he had helped years ago. But this time, she was dressed in fine clothes, standing beside a carriage. When she saw Ayaan, she smiled warmly. She said, "Do you remember me? Things began to change for us. My husband returned safely, and now works for the governor himself. It was his suggestion that you should be chosen as the royal tailor." Ayaan was stunned. He realized that his act of kindness had come full circle. The woman continued, "Your generosity was the reason God opened this door for you. Never stop doing good, for you never know which small act of charity will bring a lifetime of blessings." That night, Ayaan returned home with tears in his eyes and gratitude in his heart. He remembered his father's words, "Charity changes destiny." From that day forward, Ayaan expanded his charitable work. He opened a small school for poor children and started a community kitchen where no one would go hungry. The town prospered, and people said, "The blessings of Rahim live through his son." The story spread far and wide, inspiring others to give and to trust in divine rewards. And so, the legacy of Rahim and Ayaan became a symbol of hope, that kindness never goes unnoticed, and charity always finds its way back to the giver, multiplied many times over. Because what we give from our hearts doesn't just change someone's day, it can change our destiny. Forever years went by, and Ayaan's name became known across the entire region. He had wealth, respect, and a family who adored him. Yet, despite all his success, he remained humble and continued his father's path, helping others quietly, without expecting anything in return. One day, a severe drought struck the land. Crops dried up, rivers turned to dust, and people began to suffer from hunger and thirst. Even the rich found it difficult to survive. As food became scarce and prices rose sky-high, Ayaan saw his people struggling, and his heart ached for them. He gathered his family and said, "This is the time to test our faith. When people are in need, charity becomes not a choice, but a duty. We must give whatever we can." His wife and children agreed, and together they began distributing food, water, and clothes from their own home. Day after day, lines of hungry people came to Ayaan's house, and no one ever left.